So this is a demo video of the grader application, the auto grader. I don't know if we actually have an official name for it. But so this is what you'll be using in class, and for the video, this is just a tutorial of how it works. This is the GitHub of where it is, jwbartel/grader. So if you want to submit stuff to it, if you're interested in contributing, or you can add like requests of features and that sort of stuff if you want it there, or contact me, which I think you all have my email at this point. So just a quick thing about how it's set up. I have right now shared with you all in the 110 course a shared folder, and I'd suggest you do this for 411 as well, that I have a Comp 110 Fall 2014. Let's close this. And inside there's a grading results folder, which there's a folder for each person that you can put your results in. And then there's an automated grader program, graded folder, which has the jar, which generates from the grader, and I'll talk a little bit about how that's done. Grading assignments, which is which onions you have. I won't open that so that we don't have onions floating around on YouTube. But essentially it's just a student, like TA's name and their range of onions they're responsible for grading, and then a config folder, which in it contains a single config file. It used to be you had to have a config file for each assignment you're grading. Now it's one consistent one, and I'll show you that in a second. So this is the config file. So if you go down, some of it is a little bit, we haven't removed some stuff because we've been playing around. This is from when each assignment had its own config file, the project.requirements and project.name. Also, by the way, any point during this if you have questions, let me know. It'd be nice to answer them as you have them. But in here, we actually have, this is all coded in Java. So the way it starts off is you have an assignment that you downloaded from Sakai. Actually, better to show you that. So right here I have some sample assignments. Well, one sample assignment and a clean version of it. And this is what you download from Sakai. So it's built to actually work with Sakai. So when you hit download all from Sakai, the assignment, you'll get actually a list of names and their onions, which these are all made up. But so there's like their last name, first name, and then their onion. And in there's also a grades.csv folder, which is last name, first name, onion, and all that in a CSV form with their grades for each assignment. I can show you what that looks like real quick. And this is what the grader actually runs on top of. There's nothing in there right now because we haven't assigned grades in this demo yet. But inside each of these folders is a submission attachments, and there's also in when you actually run the grader, there should be a feedback attachments afterwards, which you then can upload to Sakai. And so let's go just here. So within that, you have certain assignments. So you have assignment 1, assignment 2, or program 1, program 2. And what you have is you have for each class. So for our class this semester for the 110, and you'll want to add your own for the Comp 411, is that it has Comp 110 Fall 2014 dot requirements, and this is the format of the class you have that you declare all the requirements for that assignment. And so we have it somewhat of a like a regular expression almost, that it's grading tools.comp 110 Fall 14 with a problem name where name is lowercase, which means there's no camel case, everything is lowercase, or the problem name with a name capitalized, and that means do it camel case. And to show you what that looks like, so I'll go down to actually grading tools dot comp 110 fall 14. So it's this one. Expand that up. So you can see right there, there's the package that's declared in, and inside there's a class. So the assignment one is not in camel case and doesn't start with a capital, whereas this one does to conform to standard Java practices. So we allowed that. But if you want to specify that, if you're writing stuff. And to show you what this looks like, I'm doing this for an assignment from 110. So this is just a hello world assignment. It's worth 100 points. The description is not that big of an importance for this demo. but the grading is we have 30 points assigned to, it contains a hello world class, minus 15 for incorrect capitalization. 30 points for hello world class contains a working method, and 40 points for your program prints hello world. Just pretty simple stuff. And inside here we have an assignment 1.requirements. And this is actually coded into here. And we have some diff tools that'll let you specify an input and output file that you should compare against rather than writing a class. But that stuff's, the syntax was just put together, and I'd rather not do that in a demo. I'll do another video that either I'll invite you all to come and watch in person and ask questions, or I'll just put it up on YouTube and send that out to you all. But so this is the assignment, the specification of it. So you can see right here, we added due dates of when it's due, which was earlier this past week. And then you add features, and each of these says, so this due date says at this time it's worth 100% of the credit, and at this time it's worth half the credit. And then after that you have add feature, and you say the name of the feature, how many points it's worth, and then some class that specifies how you check that feature. And we have contains a main method and prints hello world. So a few of these I'll just show you real quick because they should be relatively simple. Hello world class is, it implements this thing called basic test case. And one of the methods it needs to implement is the test, which is, it takes a project and whether or not you should auto-grade it, which for our class we're always assuming we're auto-grading because we're running through over 300 students. But from that project you can get a classes manager. From there you can get hello world and all that sort of stuff through Java reflection. So inside that project you can actually run that project. You can look at the classes inside of it. And I'll just show you what running it looks like, because this is just looking that a class exists. That's essentially what that's doing. And then inside, let's say, hello world, right in here. So what that does is it says, it runs the project, and it runs it with this 5 as a timeout, so that we will stop applications that have like infinite loops and all that sort of stuff that can happen when students send in assignments. And then it takes that output when it awaits for that project to finish running. And then you can trim it and look for hello world, and then you can fail if it, so there's a pass and a fail. And the other I should actually show you is there's a pass and a fail, and then there's like a partial fail, which is partial pass, sorry. And it's partial pass has a percentage of how much you got of those points. So it, independent of the number of points, it just says you got 50% of those points, and those sorts of things. So that's pretty much how the programming works. I know Max will be doing most of that for our class, but I just want to have that out there, so it's also in the video and also for 411 if you all want to contribute and do programming for your stuff. Then from here, so let's just show how you run it. Oh, one thing, you can generate the jars. It's all coded under Maven. That manages all our packages and all that sort of stuff. So there's a command mvn package that you run in the folder that this is in, and that'll generate the jars inside this folder that's called target, which you can actually see right here. Should have in. So inside target we have various jars, which actually didn't generate the one on this machine, but you get the idea. So inside, so I showed you that shared folder, and actually let me clear this out so it starts from scratch. Okay. Yes. Okay, so, and there's a config. So it creates a variety of files, but so I'm starting from a clean workbench where you'll start when you run it for the first time. So what this has in here is the jar with dependencies that Maven creates, and a config folder, which specifies all the config I was just detailing to you earlier. There's a lot more settings of the config that I'm not going over today because it's just too complicated for you to really care about right now. If you have questions, again, just email me and let me know. So in here is this, and the best thing you can do, so I run it from command line because it's got some print lines, like so if it catches an exception that we are not printing a pop-up box for, you can let me know about that. We can fix that sort of thing. But also, if you run it from command line, most of the time you don't have the Java executable that's registered in your system is usually a JRE rather than a JDK. So if you run the JDK, this will actually compile people's code for you. So if they send you non-compiled code in the Java world, then you can actually compile it in the program and grade it there, which is kind of nice. So we're trying to take care of most cases, and I have mine hard-coded because so I run it from here just to show you. And
so you want us to be using a JDK when we're
yeah, yeah. If you can use the JDK rather than the JRE, it'd be better for you. It will still work in the JRE. It just won't have all the functionality, but it won't break the grader. You can still grade things. Just some stuff you'll have to do by hand rather than have auto-graded. So it takes a minute. I overload my computers with too much stuff. But so it's running. Okay, so the first time it runs, it's going to come up with all this stuff of it doesn't know what's going on because you haven't set any of the basic settings. And after the first time you run, it'll actually set all this stuff up for you. So right now, it pops up with this starter window, which in you specify the module, which there are a variety of modules, 110, 401, and right now we're in 110 Vol 14. And 411 would add their own module, and you specify that in the config. And actually, I should show you that real quick, where that is specified. This has gotten a little bit messy. Most of the stuff you don't actually need to. Oh, here it is. So there's a modules that specifies all the possible modules that you can list. So you just add, well, 411 is there. And so from there, we need to specify, the things in red are things you should really look at. So right now, we don't have a download folder, which is the folder you downloaded from Sakai. So we need to specify that. And the other things that are red are the starting onion, ending onion, and go to onion, which starting onion and ending onion are that onion range I was talking about before that's in that Excel file that I specified. And the starting onion and ending onion, they sort every student by onion in alphabetical order. And then so you would go in that range from your start to your end, inclusive. And then the go-to onion is how you can jump to a specific student. So if you're coming back in and regrading something or looking at the grades you assigned to someone, you can go and look at that. But first, let's browse to a download path. So I'm going to go to my workspaces and test 110 assignments. And then you want to do you can put all of your assignments in the same folder and it'll pick them up. So you just have one master folder for all of your assignments from the class you're grading.
So before we go into this, just go to Sakai and download all 50 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you download the assignment, the single assignment that you're grading. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to open Sakai because that'll have student details in that.
No, I understand. I'm just.
Yeah.
In here, though, theoretically, we should have.
Yeah.
All the ones that we're going to.
When you go to Sakai, you go to the assignments, and then inside there, on each assignment, there's a grade link. If you go to that, click on that grade link, and then up at the top, there's an option to download all. And then you can just download. Yeah. And you just extract that all out to here. And then so I'm just going to select this folder. And so that'll be, that's kind of longer than this. So we're not working on assignment 1-clean because that's not a real assignment. That's just so I can easily get rid of things that we do in this demo. And then the starting and ending onion for me right now are correct and SK project. And just as a reminder, these are all of the students in this class. Correct, incorrect. So I'm actually grading every student. And there's a few, just to let you know, so this one actually has submission stuff, but some of them don't, to let you know how powerful this is. So there's one with no submission right there. And I think Sakai project is originally intended for something else, but now for this demo, I just kind of left it as also an empty one because that shows you a variety of cases. It's got a, oh, actually it does have that. Yeah, so we'll see. All right, so from here, so I've selected this, and I'm going to keep this open too, so you can see that it's actually writing stuff. And then we'll just, you can, from here, you can select the kind of navigation. There's automatic, which means just automatically grade everything, then quit. Manual means, and as you can see, if you hold your mouse over things, it has a little tooltips. Runs autograder with review, manual without review before each student. So manual is if you're running through and you don't want the autograder, I just want to grade everything by hand, or you've already run the autograder, I'm going back in. Automatic then manual means it runs through and grades everything automatically, and then it brings up the manual view so you can go and check over the results, which is typically how you want to run things. This is not important for you all. That's particular to something that Prasuna is developing for his classes. That's not really a general use case at this time. Filter type is you can filter by grading status, so whether it's not fully graded, not auto-graded, and all. So not fully graded means we didn't finish addressing all the grades. Fully graded means look at all the ones that are finished. Not auto-graded are the ones we didn't auto-grade, and all is. And I typically just go by all, to be honest. It's easier to jump through things and make sure you're not missing things. But all those options are there. There's other filter types, and you can even add your own if you want to contribute. So we'll start. So you can see of course, it worked this morning. All right. It may be because I ran it this morning and then didn't properly delete everything. So I'm just going to do this again. When you start messing around with stuff manually, sometimes it, because it's dependent on it being a proper state. This is why I have a clean version. And see also it creates greater settings and all that sort of stuff where your jar is. So that'll actually preserve all your settings. So if I open it again, so all there, and we will begin. All right, something's wrong with the application. So instead, I'm going to run it from here. The jar was literally working this morning. I'm just going to, I'll fix it later. So I'm not totally sure. Okay. All right, so we're just going to run this. This is actually the driver. This is the actual thing that gets called when you run the jar. Just run that. That's the wrong folder. Workspaces. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to run through all those onions. And, so yeah. Oh. Class. Oh, that's the wrong folder. That'd be why. That should be right. And escape project. Yeah, yeah. So all these settings you can change. Obviously, I've been playing around with them in. Is it really not? All right. I apologize. Something because I was working on my work computer, my office, so I'm just gonna make sure it's actually up to date. It should be up to date because I thought I was gonna miss this one. Apparently not. I will fix the one that we have deployed right now. This is really annoying. I really apologize for this. Okay. So assignment 1 there, and everything else is set, and we will begin. Okay. This is what happens when you work on multiple computers. Oh, something happened. So when you download stuff from Sakai, it's supposed to have a feedback attachments folder, and it might be failing to see that. Because this stuff was generated manually, something may have happened when something funny may have happened. This.
It worked really smoothly.
Yeah.
I've tried making manual stuff before.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the problem with this, is that I don't want to show student details on here. I'll run it one more time. Okay. So that, yeah, that was the issue. So right now you see right here is that it's running a whole bunch of stuff. And it's grading things. And this is actually running all the programs. And you'll see some errors, and that's because we're timing out and exiting off of input and that sort of stuff. So from here, we now see the pop-up of this is the manual review process. And so in here, we have our main tab, which has an onion, a name, a feature total, source points, and multiplier. And you can actually have a photo if you set that up. I won't show you how to do that today because it's an extra feature that's not super necessary for your grading. But it's kind of nice, especially for large classes. For the feature total, that's how much grades there are. The things that are in green right now are green because they're good. You can also see right here that all of the specific things that we wanted to grade, contains a hello world class, contains a main method, prints a hello world, all have full credit. And you can look and see if there's any comments. So there's auto notes and manual notes. Auto notes are the things that the auto grader has done, and manual notes are things that that you've done and you explain. There's manual notes for each. You can select individual things by clicking these checkboxes, and you can give overall notes for the assignment. There's also down here, this is the output each time we run their program to test for various things. And it says the feature that it's testing, right now testing prints hello world, and it printed out hello world. There's also a feedback.txt that it creates, and this is being put in each student's folder. So actually, just to show you where this is, inside assignment 1, we're in all correct right now. I don't know if realize that. So that's the person we're looking at. And inside their feedback attachments, there's a variety of files. There are sources, transcript, results, and feedback.txt. And the one we've been giving to our students, at least last semester, was the feedback.txt. And inside here, it contains the description of everything that graded. And there's no notes or anything that we've added, so this one is just, you're good, you got 100. And you'll actually, rather than having you have to open that, it's visible from right here. The source tab shows the actual, it compiles all of their source files into one text document that you can look at and grade. And you can actually, the source.txt in this folder is this file right here, the sources.txt that I have highlighted, is all of the stuff that we've that you write here. So you can actually edit this file, same with I think feedback.txt, and add little notes if you want to give them notes on source code. There's some stuff about adding plus and minus 5 that Prasoon has added because his TAs for his class like to do that, and I'm forgetting off the top of my head the exact syntax for that. So I'll add that to the description in the GitHub description. So that's a pretty like that. The README in there is actually a pretty good description of everything that's going on in here. So I try and keep that up to date of how that format works. And then there's also a problem history of what else has been graded with here, so you can make sure you're being consistent. What you graded for, any notes you've graded, those sorts of things for this particular problem. And there's also what you graded for that particular student, so you can be consistent across there. For the most part, I think most people look at these first 3 tabs. That's where most people spend a lot of their time. So we can see this person is done. This one is colored because I selected it. I can unselect it. And then so we're on 1 of 5 right now. So we're going to hit next. And there's 5 because there's 5 people that we're grading. All these 5 people right here. And so in here we'll hit next to go to the next person. And this one has some slightly different colors. So this is colored pink, and this is colored pink. And these are colored pink because they're things you should look at, not things you necessarily need to. But so this is a 60 because it's colored pink because you should check because it's not 100. So that's something you want to verify. And this is colored pink because it is not a full score. And you can actually see if I select this, that the auto notes is it didn't print hello world. It actually printed this is incorrect. And inside the source, you can actually see this is incorrect. And you can add notes about this. And one thing I want to show you is the stop if not done thing says that if I try and click next, it's not going to let me because it cannot proceed as assignment has not completely graded. Turn off the stop if not done checkbox if you do not want this check. So right now, because we're in this demo, I wanted to show you what it worked. Because you then might address you need to address a particular thing. So I'm going to say I want to address this, and you can make your own note here, or you can say, oh, that was actually wrong. I'm going to give them full credit, and you can make a note, or you can just say, yeah, that was correct, and I'm just going to validate it, and that creates a manual note by yourself automatically that says it was validated by the instructor. And that turns to green because now you've looked at it and you verified that it's okay. And you can actually see in the feedback that should have validated by the instructor and that sort of stuff. And so from there, we can hit next. So this is not gradable in this case because it didn't actually print something. It actually failed. There was an exception in the test case because it was a null output. So I was going to leave this one to you all, what you think we should do, because I want you to step through, and I figure it'd be better if shouts from the room tell me what to do, because it's better if you kind of know how to interact with the system. So what should I do right here? What do you think? Yeah.
The source.
Yeah, so let's look at the source and double check that it's right. Yeah.
Validated.
Yeah. So you can validate it or say, instead of not gradable, we may want to change it to, yeah. just something that lets the user know or the student know what they're actually being graded for. You may want to add that to clarify. And so once we change that, we move away from it. Actually, if you hit enter, it saves it. So the star means it's not saved. Kind of similar if you work in Eclipse, it has a star when it's not saved. Same sort of idea here. And then you can look at feedback.txt. It updates that's your feedback of what actually went wrong. So that's kind of helpful to students if you're trying to give them feedback on their work. And then so it looks like we're done, right? So what do we do next? Well, you don't need to validate. So if you make notes, you don't actually need to validate.
So when do you validate?
You validate when you just say, oh yeah, the auto grader was exactly right. Yeah, that's so you can quickly say, yeah, that's right. So you can step on rather than, so that way you acknowledge that you checked it, and you can hit next without spending all your time writing comments.
I'm just going to interrupt you.
Mhm.
Very quickly. So Monday is a holiday, so we won't have office hours for lab on Monday. So the lab on Thursday will be the new lab, and we'll figure out how to do the Monday, Thursday thing. But no office hours Monday. Thanks, Jacob.
Sure. And then so we'll hit next right here. And so not printing, by the way, just to give you an idea of what's going on. So not printing, the thing that should have occurred before that, really quick, is no sub. Because if you're going in alphabetical order, there's no submission, which means inside the submission attachments, there's no like real project. No submission, yeah. So what that means is we skipped over it because we don't want to have you spending time on things that doesn't actually have anything in there that maybe just has a directory. So you just skip over that and we'll just add zeros in Sakai later. That kind of saves you some time. Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Yeah. Because we realized we were spending a lot of time doing that last semester. So then we'll just hit next because we're done. And Sakai project did not print out hello world. And you can actually see Sakai project is, it has a whole host of issues. There is like a no such element exception and all this sort of stuff. And you can see that their source is much longer because they submitted the wrong assignment. That's actually what this was. So this is, you can just, what would you do in that case? What do you think?
overall notes.
Yeah, that's probably, it's the best to put it there. The wrong assignment. Enter. And this is definitely wrong because it didn't print out hello world. And we'll validate that. So you see what that means is that, so that way we're just saying, yeah, that was right. And this is still pink because they're below 100. I think there's a yellow if they're like in the B, C range. There's a green if they're in the A range. And then the feedback.txt will say overall assignment, overall comments submitted the wrong assignment. And then we can hit. And because this is the last project, next is grayed out. So you can't actually go to a next assignment. So you can either hit previous and go back to other ones, or you can quit. Oh, one other feature I didn't show you all is the open source, which should open the source in your text editor of choice. So you can make comments there, rather than if you don't want to do it here. And then that's about it for the grader. Once you're done, you can hit quit, or you can actually close this. They do the same thing.
You make sure, like on the very last one, you actually like press enter on all your comments, and it's all green before you quit, because it will otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like just
we used to have a done button.
Yeah, I think that's changed. I can't remember if the quit actually saves or not. If there's stars on your stuff, hit enter. That's the easiest to make sure everything is saved. And this is actually changed now. We see that this has a 60, this has a 100, this has a 60, and this has a 60. And the no submission doesn't have a grade because we didn't grade it, because there was nothing there. And then we can do on Sakai later. So what you'll want to do when you upload all this stuff.
Wait, that's automatically generated.
Yeah, so this is, so remember I was showing this folder of all this stuff? This is the thing you downloaded and extracted from Sakai. This is this folder, this file right here. So this has now all these grades that you just inputted, and in each of these people that you actually graded, they have the feedback attachments, and include all of your comments and that sort of stuff. So then when you're re-uploading stuff to Sakai, you can actually just package up this folder in a zip and upload that to Sakai via the grading assignments tab. There's an option to upload things. And that'll just input that all in there for you, so all that is managed by Sakai. And we have, for our class, we have a merging tool that's separate from this. So we'll ask you to put it in your folder that's on that Google Drive. And because of university licensing things, laws about student privacy and all of that, you can only have it on the CS Drive account, because that's where we have the policies allowed. If you do it on a public Drive account, that actually could be violating student privacy and that sort of thing. So you can run it locally on a secure machine and then upload it to a secure area that we have. But other than that, I wouldn't really upload it many other places. I think AFS actually has issues. You have to do some special encryption there if you want to upload it there for the other course. I think that's pretty much the demo of the grader. Is there anyone that has any questions or anything?
So,
like the no submissions, is that just going to be skipped over if there's literally nothing there, or if there is a rolling against it?
So if it doesn't have a Java project in there for now, I think it also will look for C++, and there might be, I'm trying to remember if there's like just a TXT in there, if it'll actually skip over or not.
So like someone might think they submitted something and just...
Yeah, and we'll just let them know that there was nothing on Sakai. And we have, if there's an empty, so if there's a zip file, because we have, if you look in here, everything that they submit, so this is actually expanded version of this, and the grader program does that. Everyone for 110 at least, is submitting everything as a zip file with their onion and then their like assignment. And then it'll expand it. If that zip file is empty or only contains directories, it'll just skip over that too. Or only contains like the this desktop thing that Windows creates, and there's something else that Mac creates that I'm forgetting. But there's the standard stuff that's always in the junk that's in folders. That's not going to be; those will be skipped over. But if you have actual documents in there, it shouldn't skip over. You should let you look at that sort of stuff.
So the things that incorrectly submitted a zip file, i.e., it's not just a .zip, it's all that other junk that comes on there. What will this do with that?
So, yeah.
And then you'll still give us everything, and it'll show us like not graded or anything, and we'll just look at their zip file. We'll just do the merge will be easier.
The other assumption this makes, and I should mention this, is that it assumes every assignment has only one main class in Java. So if they have multiple, we can't guarantee which of those it'll choose. So advise students that when they like submit something, and you may have to go back and regrade something if they submit multiple. That's why we can look at the source, and you can check on that sort of stuff to hand grade things. Because even with any automation, if you're going to find something wrong, someone will break it because they're dealing with hundreds of users, at least. I guess, are there any other questions? Yeah.
So, does this all work the same through C programs?
Yeah, so it runs C programs, and then it does some diff of input and output. So it has input at piece of the C program. It'll compile it on your system, run the C program with a specific input, and diffs it against some output. And if the diff fails to be a perfect match, then it'll deduct points for that feature. And we were just going over the syntax yesterday, so I didn't want to mess it up for you. So I'd rather have some time to make sure I prep it properly, give you a good description of what the syntax should be. I probably will get that done by Monday, is my plan.
You just say that you were going to make it work for C, or should it already work?
It should already work for C. So it should actually compile and then run C programs.
So is there like a certain part in the program that has like the links come in, or that's straight built in?
Yeah, so it's mostly through the config file that I'm trying to remember where it is in the config file. Okay.
maybe at like 1:30.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So yeah, so there's in here you specify the execution of how you execute the program, and there's most of them are Java, so you can specify a C, and you can see inside here you specify the language that you want. So there's a 411 language of C, that sort of thing. That's what you can specify in there. Like I said, there's a syntax for specifying that you just want to use diff files, in which case you don't have to write the Java to actually add all the features in there. But I've just, because I only just learned it, I don't want to tell you something wrong. So I'd rather just put that together before Monday. But I think I'll try and put together another video or something like that, maybe a printout sort of thing. But I'll have that on the GitHub, and I'll email you all when I put that up. Any other questions? All right, I think that's about it. I'm going to finish this hangout. Thanks.